So, Chef Govind from Santa Monica, welcome to Hablo Talks, and thanks for joining us today in sunny Brighton.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no, great. I think we'll get started by just learning a bit more about you and your journey so far. So maybe tell us a bit more about your career and how you got to where you are today.
I got an early start. I was really fortunate and started working with Wolfgang Puck when I was 13 years old. So that was my summer job, working for him as his newly opened restaurant Spago at the time in Hollywood. It was right on Sunset Strip. And that was the start. After my first day of, going and meeting with him, I was kind of hooked and never really looked back. And he really took me under his wing. And every summer that I would go, I would walk away with so much. And working with those line cooks even at the time that have gone on to these, have these super careers. And even the sous chefs then, are just incredible business operators these days and still mentor me. I still, call them and ask, the business has not gotten any easier. So,
No.
We're sort of all in it together. But that was the start, and after that, after those 3 summers, I worked with Mary Sue and Susan Feniger, who are 2 incredible women chefs in Los Angeles that owned, at the time it was Border Grill and then City Restaurant right in the middle of Los Angeles there. And did a few summers with them and then sort of moved around. I did a little bit of hotel work, did Hotel Bel Air in LA, which was a really great experience. And then I transferred schools. I was up in San Francisco at San Francisco State and worked at Postrio Restaurant up there, which was pretty incredible. And then, got that travel bug and spent some time in Europe, worked with some incredible chefs out there as well. Mostly in Spain, a little bit in France, and then in Italy, and just traveled a lot, ate a lot. And then back in Los Angeles, I was at Campanile, which is Mark Peel at the time and Nancy Silverton's restaurant. So I knew them from Spago days when I was 13. So they were happy to have me come back as a sous chef and work with them. And yeah, there I met Ben Ford, who was a good friend of mine that I'd met in San Francisco, but we really bonded in LA. Went on, a couple years later, opened our own restaurant in LA. And that was the first place that I ever opened. It was called Chadwick in Beverly Hills, and an incredible learning experience there. We were kind of young and thought we knew the business, spent a ton of money when we really didn't on a restaurant that was already in working order. The concept was there where we had our own garden that we built. We had, one cook every week was pretty much on the schedule to go out and harvest and compost and this and that. And we shopped at the farmer's market, did all that, but it was a little bit before its time. It's like no one, they cared about it, but they didn't really care enough. I think a few years later is when things really sort of turned around with the farm to table movement. Yeah, after Chadwick, I took another year off, did more traveling, and then opened Table 8, which was a great restaurant in Los Angeles, opened one in Miami and New York, opened a more casual concept called 8 Ounce Burger Bar, which now there's 5 of those in operation. So 1 in LA, 2 in Seattle, 1 in Louisiana, Mississippi. And I've been at the Lobster. I'm the director of operations there and chef and partner. And it's been an incredible journey. I've been there for about 5.5 years. An incredibly busy restaurant right in the heart of Santa Monica, at the top of the Santa Monica Pier. So my office is pretty much just overlooking the the Pacific every day. It's great.
What's your signature dish at the moment?
Right now at the Lobster, the gumbo is probably one of the most sought after. It's like it's a dish that I just tried. I just wanted to sort of test the market there. It worked extremely well at Post and Bean, which is another restaurant I started about 11 years ago, more in South LA. Where you'd find gumbo. And I really wanted to refine that. It was an incredible recipe. I had an incredible mentor for that, this woman, Edith Bell. She was about 92 years old when we were sort of like working together. And when I say that, it was like she would invite me over to her house and there'd be like a dozen eggs fried off and a half a pound of bacon and 6 pieces of toast. And it's like all for me. I'm like, well, you have people coming? She's like, no, it's for you. And it's just the energy of this woman. She was from Louisiana, born and bred. She was Muhammad Ali's private chef, so went on tour with him when he was, in his prime, and also some other Hollywood actors as well. But, just her energy, her passion, the way she would, dance and sing and like throw stuff in a pot, explain why, but it's, really all about timing and this and that, and you got to put the love in it, you got to put the passion. you gotta dance like this. It was really just so much fun. And I learned a ton of it is timing with gumbo, and it is really procuring like the best ingredients you can for something as rustic and simple as it is. At the end of the day, it's really just a stew with seafood and meat. But it's all about the ingredients. So we make our own andouille sausage. The chicken we use, it's all organic and free range. I wanted to use like wild Dungeness crab, whereas traditionally it's made with the crawfish, the little crayfish. And I just wanted to sort of refine a classic dish and try it out in a Santa Monica market where things are a little more refined. And it just went over extremely well. Like, people really understood. They loved the story. They loved the flavor of it and the depth and richness and the history behind the dish as well. And it's just one of those things. I tried taking it off, because it is supposed to be a seasonal dish. And I swear I just didn't feel safe walking through the dining room. It's like, it just really made people like really, really angry, and partially our fault. It's like, if you change a menu item, it's on like 30 different platforms. So if they read something from a year ago, they're like, it's on the menu here. I'm like, look at the date. I'm like, sorry. But yeah, gumbo is definitely one of the signatures there. And of course, lobster. We get in delivery 6 days a week over there, and they're coming straight out of the water, straight from Boston or Maine, straight to us. There's no middleman. They don't go to any tanks. They come right to us. We process and right onto the plate.
Why did you choose Santa Monica for your current restaurant, Lobster? And what's so special about having a restaurant in
Well, that restaurant, it's iconic. Like that, the original Lobster was there, over almost 100 years ago. So that was a lobster shack, more of a traditional, like East Coast, super casual. I think there was sand on the floor, but you'd walk up and buy, just oysters, cracked lobster. It evolved into a more, wouldn't say fine dining, but more of a sit down concept about 20 years after that. And like, for me, Santa Monica, it's just one of those places where I've always wanted to spend a lot of time. And it's just one of those things. Eventually this opportunity came up. I knew a couple of the family members that owned the property, and they, knew I was busy with, I had my fingers in a lot of different projects, but thought I could help them with the concept. And it didn't, there was no convincing me. I'm like, of course, it's kind of a no-brainer. And it's been incredible. Santa Monica has so much to offer. There's a ton, there's a lot more competition now. It's like definitely competitive, but there's so much camaraderie between all the restaurant operators and the hotel operators. So we all sort of watch each other's back. And at the same time, kind of looking over our shoulder to see, what they're doing. And we compare notes, and there's a lot of transparency over there, which is really wonderful too. And Santa Monica, it just has so much to offer, like everything from some of the best dive bars to some of the higher end, like hotel bars and everything in between. There's a lot of independent restaurants there, as is the Lobster, to, a couple, when they're not chains, but they're multi-unit operations. But, it's just, I don't know. It's like I go to work in paradise every day.
Which isn't bad.
No, not at all. And it never gets old. I get to watch the sunset on the water every day. And I don't know, it could be worse.
Could be worse. And then, okay, so final question. Why have you swapped Santa Monica Pier for Brighton Pier this week? Why are you in the UK, and why are we sat here today?
Well, there's a lot of things going on this month. Obviously there's a new friendship act with the two cities, which is going to be, I believe, at the end of the month. It's going to be made official. The mayor will be here, and
fabulous
documents will be signed, and photos will be taken, a little bit of everything. And I'm here to do several activations, one at Shelter Hall here. We just commenced with a menu. I think I have probably 4 items on the menu that I worked with Chef Mark. He came to Santa Monica maybe a month ago. I toured him through the farmer's market that we have, introduced him to a bunch of different farmers, and he came to the Lobster. We had dinner and sort of threw around some ideas, and he made it just an incredible menu that's reflective of what I'm doing in Santa Monica. So I'm doing this. I have the dinner at the Set, working with Chef there tomorrow, which is going to be pretty incredible. So he and I did a collaboration on his menu. there'll be 3 items featured, from Santa Monica. And I'm really excited about that. Chef Kenny is, pretty renowned. He has an incredible reputation here and in the UK. And I think the menu looks incredible. I'm really excited to do it. The energy of the restaurant, everything I've seen is like very desirable. And it reminds me of, some of the places that we do have in Santa Monica. And he's very, it's a very like-minded, using, uber seasonal ingredients and keeping things like hyper local and whatnot. So that'll be a really fun activation. And then, unfortunately, I think you guys kicked me out of here soon after. But there's all sorts of things going on the entire month. There's another chef, friend of mine from Santa Monica, Josiah Citron, who's coming out the following week to do some similar activations as well. And it's, from what I've seen, there are so many similarities to, from here to Santa Monica, like even just looking at the pier, it's like the same thing. It's like I see that that Ferris wheel every day, and all the rides and the excitement and energy on the streets, and we have a pretty good blend of locals and tourists that come and visit us at the pier and in Santa Monica, and I can. It's obviously very evident here as well.
Same vibe.
Yeah, and it's just cool and easygoing and still sophisticated, and I don't know. I really do enjoy it. I'm looking forward to spending some time here.
Brilliant. Well, Chef Govind, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure having you on Hablo Talks and having you in the UK. And next time we'll do this in Santa Monica, maybe.
That sounds perfect. That sounds perfect. Well, thank you so much for having me.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.